Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to a tabs tier list. Today we're going to be reviewing all of the units and tabs. Oh my gosh, what? This is going to be an incredible endeavor. So please stick around, make sure to like and subscribe, because it really helps the channel, and it lets me know that you want more tabs content, which is great. I like making tabs content. So let's see our tier list real quick. I'm just going to go over the categories. So we have powerful, the best category, effective, which means they're above average, average, situational. Obviously all units are situational, but these just only have one or two situations in which they're useful, or very few opportunities to use them effectively. And then the last category is worthless. I don't know if we're going to be putting anything in there. I haven't planned this out too much. I mean, I kind of know what I'm going to do, but it's also kind of by the seat of my pants. So I kind of mix these up, so we're just going to be going in random orders. So we'll start with Wheelbarrow. I would say these guys are average, maybe even effective actually. While they do have a pretty steep cost for being a fodder unit, $140 or cash units. I don't know what the unit currency is, but $140, right? That's a lot for a fodder unit. But you have to remember that they can fully block ballistas and arrows unless they hit them like in the head, which is insanely good. As long as there's not too many other melee units and it's mostly ranged, these guys are pretty good. I normally only use them for ballistas though. Potion seller, I say these guys are situational. The reason I say that is because while they are pretty powerful, they're also quite expensive. They do have a great area of effect attack, but the downside of that is friendly fire. You're getting a lot of friendly fire with these guys. If you're fighting or firing into a melee horde, you're going to be hitting a lot of your own units. So it's going to be in a situation where there aren't too many melee units on your side, but more on the other side, which I feel like just doesn't happen that much. And also you're using a lot of money on these guys. I think they could use a slight buff in their price, so maybe drop it down to like 300 or something. I don't know. So the Harvester. Ooh. I'd have to say average, just because I think the Harvester is too expensive, and maybe if it had better AoE attack, maybe if its attack was more like the Reaper from the Spooky faction, I'd be, I put it in effective, but just using against like fodder units or like even decent melee units like the Squire or something, it just doesn't work out that well, even though I would like it to. So next up we have the Wheelbarrow. I think this guy is, I would say situational. I wouldn't say it's worthless. It's situational because out of all the cavalry units, it's pretty garbage. It's $1,000, so you could get a Jester for that much. And you're getting 3 units, you're getting 3 guys, right? But it just doesn't do that much damage. Apple Thrower isn't really that good of ranged, and it has the tendency to flip over. Sometimes it'll even break on steep hills. So yeah, not the best, definitely very situational. I didn't maybe put in worthless, but we'll leave it in situational. Oh, so the Bard. Situational. I don't really use this guy that often, but sometimes it is a nice distraction unit. It can kill other units by having them walk off the ledge, which is fun. Archer. Oh, of course, Archer is great. I love it. I wouldn't say it's effective, just because there are so many units with shields, but I'd say it is very good. It's definitely a high average. Great usability. Clubber, I would also say it's average. It's a decent fodder unit. It has low health, low attack. It's fine. It's just a garbage unit. I wish they would do something to make it, differentiate it from other garbage units like the Farmer, but, get what you get. Catapult. Effective. Great AoE attack. Awesome. Just absolutely destroys a lot of low tier units very quickly. Pretty easy to aim. I have no complaints with it. The King. Ooh. This guy used to be effective, maybe even powerful, but not anymore. His price tag is just too much. He doesn't really specialize in anything. I'd say the best thing about him is his high health and decent attack, which sounds good, but he just doesn't really differentiate himself, and I don't know if he's really worth a high price tag. Ooh, Shield Bearer. Effective. This guy is extremely effective. His shield covers almost his entire body, except for a little portion at his, you know, his legs, his feet. But yeah, pretty cheap, only $100, and yeah, you're getting a lot of effectiveness for your front line, protecting the units behind it. Sarissa, average, I'd say. I used to use them for anti-cav, but now they're kind of getting outclassed by pikemen. I'd say they're actually more better for melee units rather than against fast-moving targets. So I'd say they're average. They're not incredible, but they're not, you know, terrible either. Hoplite, also say that these guys are average. You know, they're not great. They're not terrible. Their shield is nice. It's nice that their spear can stick through their shield, so it's not, you know, obstructing their line of fire, basically. But yeah, their shield is a little small, and you know, they have a hefty price too. Ballista, powerful. I mean, the ballista is just incredible for $900. You're getting a decent amount of AOE and incredible anti-hero. Does great against things like the King, the Reaper, Pirate King, Minotaur, whatever. Just great damage. And I know everything's good when buffed by cheerleaders, but if you're only buffing it with a couple cheerleaders, the ballista just gains so much power. Zeus, I'd say he's effective. He recently got a buff in his health. He is $2,000, but he is the boss unit of the Ancient faction, and he has great AoE attack. So I would say he's pretty effective. He's not super weak anymore, and he does great damage on his own. Headbutter. I'd say these guys are worthless. I mean, that may be pretty harsh, but they're $90, which, you know, 10 more you can get things like the Squire. They're not great as a fodder unit. They don't really do a lot of damage, and they're decently expensive, so I don't really enjoy it. I mean, I think they're funny and fun, but they're not good, right? Protector, I'd say this unit is situational. Maybe even average, I don't know. The reason I say that is because it's basically a worse shield bearer, which you're like, yeah, duh, it's cheaper, it should be worse. I'm like, yeah, but it's so much worse. The shield is smaller, it has a freaking hole in the middle, and it's more easily knocked aside. I think it has less weight. So, you know, when you're going down by $10, you're getting a pretty massive downgrade. So I say situational. Only if you're super tight on money would you ever want to use protectors. Brawler. I'd say these guys are worthless, which that feels mean to say because I really like the unit. I mean, it has great design, looks great, functions like it's supposed to, but the price is so high. $220. I can get a hoplite for $180, and they're basically the same. Actually, I'd even say the hoplite's a little better. So yeah, Brawler's pretty bad because they're super short range, while their shield is nice and decently large for a one-handed shield. They just don't have like the health, right? They have as much health as the Squire, so they go down in an arrow, right? They're not that good at melee. I think you're trading so much. You know, you could get two shield bearers and a little bit for that money. So yeah, I would never use a Brawler. Berserker, I say powerful. These guys are great. They're supposed to be for backline units, kind of like the Darkwalker or whatever, but no, they're great in almost any situation. They're super good. They do great melee damage. Their leap is incredible. Perfection. Jarl, effective, maybe even powerful. They got buffed incredibly, I think, but they are like $1,500 now, I think, or $1,200 maybe. The exact number escapes me. I have a lot of numbers in my head. Yeah, I think they're great. They have the ice shield that they can use. They have enrage, which is awesome. It basically like prevents them from taking damage. I think they also may get an attack buff, either in damage or attack speed. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, very powerful boss unit. Going from one of the weaker hero units, probably the weakest hero unit. Longship, situational. You want to know why? It's because there's a large potential for friendly fire here. If the guys at the bottom die, the ship automatically launches up, crushing all of your units behind it, or maybe even in front of it. It does have good AoE, but it's a little bit janky how the boat works. It's hard for enemy units to get up it, which is good for the paddle guys inside, but it's just a little jank. So that's why I say it would be situational, because you can hurry your own units. You have a great chance to do that, because if you put like shield bearers in front of it, then those guys are dead as soon as you launch a ship. If you don't, then the longship is probably going to die to range, so which means the guys behind it are dead. So it's just really a no-win. But it's an interesting unit, and it definitely has worth. So, Samurai. These guys are situational because they can only block one projectile at a time, and they're quite expensive for being terrible at melee. I just don't think they're amazing. The only reason I would use them is if there's like muskets or a Deadeye or something on the enemy side, because shields don't reliably block that, or at least definitely not as well as arrows. Sometimes I did a test. Some bullets shields block, some they don't. It just depends. I don't know. But Samurai block all of them, so I'd say Samurai are good for that. But if you're using them against like archers or something, I would never do that. Ninja. Ooh, I like this guy. I'd say it's average. Pretty close range unit, but it has a lot of DPS. And I think it holds its own. So I think it's pretty good, and has low friendly fire as well because it needs to be up at the front. Spear thrower. I would say it's a low average. I'd say that because it's not amazing, right? It does decent damage, but it has a high reload rate, and you have to get pretty close to use it. But it is cheaper than the archer, so I would definitely say it's average, yeah. Dragon, super effective, maybe even powerful. This guy clears out everything. Hero units, fodder units, AoE, single it does everything. Its damage is way too high. Actually, I'd say it's powerful. Has the potential to kill hero units. They fixed it. The angle that the fire comes from isn't as low anymore, which is good. So now things don't really get under it as much, which is a good unit for $1,000. Watcha. I'd say it's effective. It's one of the only reliable ways to actually kill the super peasant, so that earns it something in my book at least. And yeah, very very good unit. Lots of AoE, lots of just damage in general, kind of like the dragon. But it is more expensive, but it also has a massive fire rate for loading all those arrows into it. So yeah, I think it actually needs a nerf. Scarecrow. This guy used to be really good. I'd say he's still effective because he does a ton of damage, and if your player control him, you can just sit in the back spamming crows. So pretty good unit. Obviously he has low health, but he's pretty cheap too. So yeah. Minotaur, I'd say he's average. He's not amazing. Oh, excuse me. He doesn't have great damage, that's why I would put him in average, not effective. And average is good. Most units should be in the average category. But yeah, he has high health, but kind of lower damage. And his charge sometimes just puts him in the middle of melee units, in which he's terrible at group combat, right? He's way better on one-on-one, or 1v2 or whatever. Ice Archer. Situational. Again, these guys used to be really good, but the amount of units that have shields and stuff like Samurai, Hay Balers, units that can dodge like Painters and Quick Draw, and then of course you have all the other range units that can easily take this guy out. I would put them higher on the list if they did damage while freezing units, but a unit has to be completely frozen to take damage, and a lot of the boss units just freeze so slowly. You have to have a million of these guys to kill something like an Ice Giant or a Minotaur or King or whatever. So yeah, not amazing in my book, but they can be used, so I wouldn't say they're worthless. Monkey King. I'd say average. It does its job for sure. $2,000 is a hefty price, but it's not prone to dying very often. Can make clones that do damage. It does decent damage, but it's more like a distraction unit. It's kind of like if Berserker had a boss equivalent. This would be it. I would say it's good. I like it. Fanbearer. I would say situational, but no, they're worthless. I've never used these. I don't think I've ever used them like really in a strategy. I mean, obviously I've used the unit, but it's not good at all. They have to get pretty close to start moving units back with their little fans. They're extremely susceptible to enemy ranged fire, blah 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 blah. They're bad. They're terrible. Shouters are way better. Healers. Effective. Great unit. Great at healing boss units and just generally helping out the team. There aren't a lot of support units in tabs, but this is one, and it's a great support unit. Jester. Situational, like low situational. Jester only really works if you have a lot of them against the boss unit. So, yeah, take from that what you will. Not great at AoE. Teacher, also situational, decent against things like the king or a lot of squires or something, but not amazing, and I barely use them. Shogun, I'd say this is an average unit. It's nice that they walk backwards after firing. They have a decent rate of fire, poor accuracy, but they shoot a lot of balls in that volley, so decent in my book. I'd say the knight is also average. Has an awesome, massive shield. Its charge is powerful. Actually, I'd say this guy's effective. This charge is powerful. It does good damage, and it's pretty cheap, you know, for what it brings to the table. Worthless. I win when you ever use this guy. Its attack goes vertically, so from top to bottom, like it's executing someone, which is thematic, but it's hard to hate units like that. And when it does, it has low damage and has low health. So, and I think it's pretty slow. It's pretty slow. Taekwondo. I would say this guy's also worthless. Not good. I don't know what it's situational, but like very low situational. It does good damage, but it's super susceptible to ranged and melee too. I don't know. Not a good unit in my opinion. Mace spinners, situational. Only use it if you have cheerleaders, otherwise it's hot trash. Stoner. Would I say average here? I would. No, I would say situational. I think it's supposed to be an AoE unit, but it doesn't do a lot of AoE damage. And it has to get super close to throw the rock, and has a slow reload time, so pretty bad in my opinion. Snake Archer. Situational. It's not amazing, but it is fun to use sometimes, and the snakes do distract and actually do decent damage to low tier units, but its reload rate cripples it, and also the snakes have a large chance to get stuck in the floor and in the walls, so you know there's a chance that 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3 shots your snakes aren't gonna do anything because they're glitched, which some people would say you shouldn't factor that in, but I'm going to. Cheerleader. Instant powerful. Cheerleaders are broken beyond belief. They're way too good. I don't know how they stayed this way this long in this game. I have no idea. But Landfall needs to fix them because they're way too good. Either like give them a price buff or something. I don't know. Have like a cap of effectiveness. I'm not entirely sure what to do. Vlad. Situational. No. Oh my gosh, I forgot. No, this guy is average, high average, because no, this guy's effective. Sorry, because I completely forgot about his ability, which launches spikes out of the ground, instantly killing units. Like almost every unit, it instantly kills, and it's so good. It's great AoE, and Vlad by himself is pretty decent. He has decent health, okay attack, but his ability just makes him effective. Has great AoE ice damage thing. It's good. I like it. Squire. Average. It's Squire. It's supposed to be average. It's decent melee fighting unit. Jouster. Average. tramples units pretty effectively. Its lance does a decent single target damage. Fast, everything you need it to be. Wheelbarrow Dragon, situational, don't like it. Has the same problems as the Wheelbarrow. Easily gets stuck. Does decent AoE, but not very good. Cab, effective, just a better jouster for more expense, but it does have the charge built in, and it does more trample damage, so yeah, win in my book. Situational, these guys are pretty weak, low damage, low attack, hard to hit a lot of units. It's difficult for them to hit units, so not amazing. Shogun, effective, great. It deflects a ton of arrows, and it has a great time stop charging attack, which insta kills units, so that's fun. Samurai Giant is effective, great AoE, it's okay single target, but its AoE just makes it. Muskets, of course, are very effective, great long range unit that does a lot of damage. Average, it has a lot of range for a melee unit, so it's good to put it behind other melee units, and also has a really good health, so that's all awesome. Sensei has a lot of attack speed, and it has an attack speed ability, so that's just, it's good. It's good. Average, decent AoE, but not super reliable as it can miss a lot, and it has poor single target. Powerful, its Ice Breath is incredible. It has a ton of health, it does a ton of damage, and it's massive, so, you know, awesome. Bone Mage, effective, lots of AoE. Yeah, what else can I say? Actually, no, average, because it can kill a lot of its own units. Friendly fire is terrible. Artemis is powerful. She did get, they changed her, so she only has fires these leaf arrows, and then she has a blowback ability, so it's good that she's stopped from getting attacked by melee as easily, but she feels less powerful, but still very powerful, you know. Painter is powerful, of course. Super cheap fodder unit that can actually dodge out of the way of arrows, so super long lasting, cheap, effective unit. Situational, poor damage, but it can raise units in the air that drops them and then does damage, so it's good at stalling single targets, but against large crowds it's pretty bad. Davinci Tank is situational at best because it can be one-shot by the Deadeye, so it's pretty easy counters. It does low damage, it works oddly, and when it's turned into a tornado by cheerleaders it functions poorly. Ballooner, worthless. This guy can never get to the front line because he has poor health, and when he does get to the front line, he kills himself in the process of maybe killing another unit, so yeah, bad. We're just gonna blow an archer. Lady Red Jade is super effective. She does a lot of damage, great tornado ability thing, good health, awesome. Firework Archer, average, good AoE. Nice long range AoE, I may add, but slow reload rate. Worthless. Situational. People have told me that it can destroy tanks. It has high damage, but I haven't really seen it in practice that much. Whenever I use it, it's not very effective, but I'll put in situational for the Chieftain fans. Monk is average, good tank unit, knocks units back, does some damage. Overall, a decent unit. Mammoth, effective, great AoE and health, and its charge is also pretty nice for a low price package. Halfling is situational now because the peasant unit just outclasses it as one of the cheapest fodder units, and its leap is garbage, its attack is garbage, its health is garbage. It's garbage. But if you have to use it as fodder unit. Average. I wish they didn't raise the price on it, but you know, that's the way it is. Has okay attack, low health. It's a farmer. Do we want to There we go. There we go. It's fine. Let's actually bring that. Okay. So Flintlock is average. I'd say it's okay. It's long range fodder unit that only has 2 shots. Just take from that what you will. They're pretty low damage, and they also miss a lot, so maybe actually situational. Bomb thrower, average. It does great AoE, and it even drops bombs when it dies, so that's fun. Bomb on a stick is worthless. No point if you have a bomb thrower, and it has to get to the front line to use its bomb on a stick, in the process killing itself and hurting another unit, or maybe killing it, but it does kind of low damage for being a whole bomb. Void Cultist. I say this guy is average. He has a kind of stun damage ability that like knocks units to the floor, and he has a tiny shield which is almost useless, and he has decent melee and decent health, so that's fun. Raptor is average, I'd say. It's quite fast, has decent damage, and it's pretty cheap, but if there's like any AoE at all, it has low health, so it's gonna get absolutely wrecked. Fencer is average, does what it needs to, gets in and gets out, and does decent damage while doing it, so that's fun. Shouter is also average, way better than the fan guy. Blows units back in a burst, which has a high chance to knock them off the map. Especially if you're on like a bridge map, it's very good, but also if you just have units near the edge of a map, like your opponent put them there, then it's going to be super effective. Raptor Rider, situational. There's some more expensive Raptor that I really don't see them doing like any more damage for having a Rider on there, and they're more than double the cost, so yeah, situational. I'd say it's worthless. When would you want that? I don't know. Clams, average. It's like the Scarecrow, but the clams are ground bound, and he produces a lot more of them. But they also do lower damage, so, you know. Bomb Cannon is effective, great AoE, great long range AoE. For only 500 more than a regular cannon, I always pick up Bomb Cannon if I have the choice. Blackbeard is effective. It has, you know, his cannonball ability, which has good AoE. And, you know, if a cannonball hits a single target, it does pretty decent damage. And of course, Blackbeard is just very good with his, you know, anchor hands. Skeleton Warrior is effective. Its small shield is nice, and its scare ability is also amazing. Skeleton Archer is situational. Maybe average. I would say it's average after the fire buff. Fire you didn't used to spread. So when fire didn't spread, the Skeleton Archer was kind of bad, but yeah, I'd pick up Skeleton Archer if you needed to kill hero units because of the fire does extra damage, or if you're doing a slight AoE because the fire spreads, something like that. Vampire, situational. I don't know when you'd use this guy. He doesn't really work on hero units, and he doesn't really work if there's a large crowd, so yeah, he does have a worth to kill range units quite quickly, but how he gets to those range units is up to you. Pumpkin Catapult, I'd say is effective. I'd always take it over a regular Catapult because while its AoE isn't quite as good, it has potential to hit more units in the backline, which is almost more important than killing them in the front, because why do you kill units in the backline? To kill the ones in the front, and this guy just goes for the ones in the back. So, you know, pretty decent. And it's the same price as a regular Catapult. Swordcaster is average. It's annoying that you can't control him well in first person. You don't decide when he shoots. But he's good for $1,000. Good rate of fire, good damage, and can stun smaller hero units like the King or the Jarl. The Reaper is of course effective. It does great AoE damage. It does so much damage when it dies if there's a lot of units around it, and its tentacles insta-kill garbage units, so that's fun. Cupid, worthless. Never really used this guy. It's kind of like the freezing thing. The guys that you would want to Cupid, like hero units, take longer to Cupid, so you have to get a lot of them to do anything, and they're like $560, so yeah. Not amazing. Bank Robbers, situational. Not sure when you use this guy over the longship because there's less AoE, and usually at least one of the guys dies when it's thrown, so, or maybe even two sometimes, so yeah, not amazing in my book, but it is a fun, silly unit, so that's nice. Gatling Gun, oh god, where'd it go? I'm not sure. Down in my throat. These units average. You're like, isn't that just like Bomb on the Stick? Why would you put it so high? Well, because it throws the dynamite before it dies, so it actually can hurt people after it dies, whereas the bomb on the stick never works if the unit dies. But dynamite thrower does work if the unit dies. And it also it stalls the unit in front of it that it's fighting, so the dynamite can go off. So I think it's good. Cannon, average, kind of like, I'd say a worse ballista, just because it's more expensive, but it does have a higher rate of fire but lower damage. So, I'd say it's a good unit. Minor, situational, it's pretty expensive, 220, I believe, or maybe just 200. It's supposed to have decent AoE, and it does sometimes. Sometimes the thing glitches out and it doesn't do that much AoE. Its attack has relatively low damage, and also has a really slow rate of fire, so not amazing, but not also terrible. The Boxer. Average. He's decently expensive, but he has a lot of health, a lot of damage. Good melee unit. Melee. Cactus. E. Average. I'd say, because while it is better than the hay baler, it's also more expensive than the hay baler, but it does have like this latch on attack, which also he shoots spikes out if he gets hit, after a duration. So yeah, not a bad unit. Gunslinger. Average. Slow rate of fire, like 13-second reload, 12-second reload, but a decent amount of AoE. And if you pack in like 2 of these guys into your army, then you're going to be countering large, peasant armies or whatever. Speaking of peasant armies, Peasant, powerful, super cheap unit, cheapest unit in the game at 30 bucks. This guy is absolutely insane, just because he's so cheap. Basically, he devalued a lot of units, like the Squire, the Farmer, the Clubber, the Halfling, because previously you'd use them as fodder units, but now what's the point? This guy is, he's too good. I wouldn't say he's too good. I think what Landfall needs to do is buff the previous fodder units, or make them unique at least, something like that. Which they kind of did with the Clubber and the Farmer. They differentiated those two, but the Squire still really doesn't have a spot in the game in the current meta. Lasso, situational, maybe even worthless. Does low damage. The charge, I feel, just hampers it. Why would you lasso a unit and then charge in after them? You're just, I don't know. I don't get the unit really. It doesn't like stall a unit. Like maybe you're like, well, it's stalling a unit. No, it's not. How is that unit gonna be hit by range? You're just dragging it around for a little bit for what? I don't know. I don't get it. Deadeye, ooh, effective, great, massive range, massive damage, almost always hits the target. It's like a high rate of fire too. It's like 4 seconds, 5 seconds. I don't know. Pharaoh, situational. I would say this because, well, it does have decent AoE and decent damage in its ability. It becomes immobilized when it's using it, so you're gonna have to make sure that it's protected. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to protect it too. I don't know. It's a decent unit, but it also has a lot of faults. Quick Draw is also effective. Great rate of fire, awesome range. If you're, first person controlling it, then you're always going to hit your target, which is great. And its dodge is also very powerful, allowing it to at least get another volley off before the unit catches up with it again. The Ball and Chain, worthless. It's supposed to be like some AoE thing? I don't know. It's not good. It's like a bad headbutter. Pretty expensive. Gatling Gun is situational. It's not very good. The base Gatling Gun is pretty bad. It has incredibly low damage, low accuracy, high rate of fire, but it takes a while to get going. So it's everything a normal Gatling Gun is without the damage, so... Or a real life Gatling Gun, rather. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it can be used. I normally use it with a lot of cheerleaders. Banner Bear, situational, obvious reasons. You're never going to always want to use this unit. But there are some times when you want to keep a small part of your army back, or maybe your whole army back, for some terrain advantage or something. I don't know. It's a neat unit. I like it, but it's not amazing, right? Poacher, average. Cheaper than the Archer, but has to get closer, but also has a high rate of fire, but lower damage, so yeah. A lot of words there, but it's pretty decent. Void Monarch, of course, powerful. This guy's amazing. Turns into this massive demon thing after a bit of fighting, and yeah, once it turns into that, it is, it absolutely wrecks whole armies. Candlehead. I'd say this guy's average. I don't really see that many people using him, but he has a really high rate of fire, along with knocking units back, which is a great ability. So, and damage too. So I think the Candlehead is awesome. Blow Darter is also awesome. Has a decent range. I think it's around the same as the Archer, and it can poison units, which makes it into a pretty decent unit. I think it was broken. I haven't really played too much, like a couple weeks ago, just because I had a job. I still have a job, but apparently something was broken with it. I'm not entirely sure what happened. If you know, put it in the comments or something. I don't know. Timberslick, situational. This guy is not that good. He's supposed to be like the Divine Arbiter, like a mirror unit, but his AoE isn't amazing. The lightning belts struggle to hit single targets, and often units move past the clouds, so it doesn't get that much damage off. Obviously, the unit looks great, but it functions poorly, right? It's $1,000 too, so the same as the Divine Arbiter. Pyga is effective, massive damage on the one shot that it gets, so it's great anti-cab, immediately kills a horse. If you have a couple of them, you'll immediately kill stuff like the Ice Giant, the Tree Giant, Samurai Giant, all the big health things. It's amazing. Barrel Roller is average. It's a lot of money, but you're getting a lot of bang for your buck, if you know what I mean. Like, that was a pun. Yeah, it's very good. A lot of damage. Flag Bearer, obviously situational, like the Banner Bearer. It's actually, no, I'd say this guy is average just because, no, situational. It speeds up your units a good deal, but you don't always want to use it, right? Wizard, average, 1200. You could be getting better things for that money, but you could also be getting worse things for that money. Its lightning attack is very eccentric and funny. It spins your unit around and then lightning goes through them or something and hits other units around it. So decent AoE, and can also do a little bit of melee, you know, if a unit's getting close. Chariot, worthless. This guy gets stuck on everything. He is super wide, so you're gonna have to, yeah, super wide, get stuck on everything, get stuck on other units. You have a lot of independent factors. You have the chariot, then you have the horse, then you have the guy on the chariot. If either one of those things gets stuck or dies, the whole thing just the whole operation stops working. And unlike the wheelbarrow, where if the guys in the wheelbarrow die, the wheelbarrow keeps going. If the horse dies, chariot stops. If the guy dies, chariot's basically worthless. If the horse dies, obviously the chariot doesn't work. If the chariot gets stuck, everyone dies. It's, yeah, not good. Pirate Queen, I'd say, is effective, maybe even powerful. Putting a lot of money into it, but you know, 2,500 is a pretty decent amount, but it has a lot of health, a lot of attack, and of course its bomb attack that when it jumps into the air is great AoE, especially because there's going to be units surrounding it most of the time. It's usually the only unit left on the battlefield. Thor is average. He has a decent price. I'd say he's well priced. His lightning attack does a ton of single target or AoE, and sometimes he blocks arrows. It's kind of hit or miss, and actually I'd say he's effective, and he has great melee, of course. He's Thor. Tank is definitely effective, maybe even powerful. The best player controlled unit in my opinion. Very fast, can do melee by ramming, and it has a high reload rate and really good damage with its tank round that it shoots out, so that's amazing. Super Boxer. This guy is situational. He's really expensive and not that good for his expense, so yeah, he used to be way more expensive, but I think that was actually a mistake. Dark Peasant, powerful, obviously. Should these guys even be on the tier list? Because you're never going to use them in a campaign. I'll put them on there. Of course, Dark Peasant is super powerful, as is the Super Peasant. I think normally the Super Peasant wins out of the two, but if they're fighting normal units, then the Dark Peasant never dies. It literally can never die. There's nothing that can kill it or do damage to it. It's beyond broken, basically. Present Elf, situational, because you're not always going to get a good unit when the Present throws out, and you're using a lot of money to get maybe a garbage unit, right? And it's also kind of low. I don't like when people use them in multiplayer, because then it just becomes RNG. I've had multiplayer games where people spawn a Super Peasant out of a Present Elf. How is that fair at all, or fun? It's not either, but whatever. Ice Mage, average, really good stall, but low damage. Which, situational, decent damage, but when its clones die, it's super vulnerable. Actually, it's always vulnerable, which makes it kind of a bad unit. Also situational, I don't really get the Banshee. It has this AoE attack, but besides that, it's really bad. Necromancer, I say this guy's average. I really like using him, but he's not the best. Actually, I'd say he is effective because he can push units back with his gravestones. I forgot about that, and he can also convert units while doing it. So turning the enemy against themselves. But this is a unit that has to get their value out real quick. But yeah, good unit in my opinion. Skeleton Giant. Poo-poo. This guy's worthless. He does super low attack. His shield is proportionally very small, so it's not really helping him. He does have the large scare ability, which is good, but when he scares units away, it's going to be harder for him to do damage. And he falls over all the time. He's the worst balanced unit I've ever seen. Not like meta balance, but like actually balanced. Average. They're a decent boxer-like unit. Celestial Aegis, I'd say, is very effective because they have that great projectile blocking shield that can actually block ballista bolts too if it's fully charged, which is great. Radiant Glaive, I'd say this is situational. It has AoE, like it hits a lot of units, but it's like Zeus, but it does low damage while doing it. Like it takes a lot of shots to kill something, so. But it is an interesting unit. Captain, effective. Good damage with its blunderbuss and with its sword, and its kick does super high damage, so that's fun. Average, low damage, but AoE, and it looks great. That didn't factor in the looking great part, but it does look good. Divine Arbiter, powerful. This guy's for how bad its foil unit is, this guy's amazing. He has super high damage with great range. And with a Cheerleader is unstoppable, really. Sacred Elephant, situational to worthless. I'd say worthless. Why is it on an elephant? Why? Why didn't you put a melee unit on the elephant? There is the thing on top, the javelin thrower gains nothing from being on the elephant, except it's easier to shoot, right? So it has low damage, low rate of fire. Elephant doesn't do really anything. And I was actually really disappointed with this unit when it came out. I thought it was going to be way better. Chronomancer, powerful. It's more powerful than the Void Monarch. Can you believe that? Stops time to kill a unit. It's like the Shogun attack, basically. Stunts the unit, which it then takes damage or fully dies. And then it evolves later on to become absolutely insane. Great unit. Harpooner, situational, not very good, not terrible. You can use it for sure. Blunderbuss is effective, I would say. It has amazing damage, has the Hay Baler armor, and yeah, awesome unit. Situational. The Shadow Walker isn't amazing, really low damage, low rate of fire, but it does effectively get in the back line, which is good. Unlike the Berserker, which can't always get in the back line depending on how far away your lines are from each other, how far away they're spaced. Exiled Sentinel, I wish this guy was better because it's a very cool concept. He switches from axes to shields depending on who's attacking him, but it doesn't really end up working out that well. His shields don't block arrows that well, and he doesn't do that much damage. So while he is a cool unit, he's not that good. Same for Matt Mechanic. He doesn't really do a lot of AoE damage. He does a lot of damage, but just not AoE. And he has to get super close, so he could do with a bit more range, in my opinion. Deathbringer. Effective. This guy's very good. He does a lot of damage, super fast, and he looks dope. Infernal Whip is also very good. I'd say it's average. It has a decent AoE and a long range for a melee unit. This guy's super effective. Good at he's an architect, right? So he just makes stuff in unit formations, which means they have to poorly pathfind their way around it. But the thing that blocks them isn't tall and it doesn't block arrows, so they're kind of just open archer fire, which is great. Very good unit. I love this little architect. Custom unit. This guy shouldn't be on here, but he's very powerful, obviously. Just depending on what you make him. So actually, we'll say he's average. Average it out. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this tier list. If you do want me to make more tabs content and want to see more content like this, make sure to like and subscribe. Helps me know that you like the video. But yeah, see you guys later. Adios.